In the heart of the night, where the shadows play, Steve and Michael begin lighting up the way. Abnormal investigations, whispers in the trees. With boots on the ground, I'm chasing mysteries. Shining lights into the dark, unveiling what's unseen. Through the haunting silence, I walk where others dream. I'm on the ancient woods, where legends come alive. I'll uncover the truth, feel the shadows thrive. Footsteps on the trail, echoes in the night, searching for the secrets hidden from the light. Cryptids roam the wild under the moon's embrace. With every rustle in the leaves, I feel their haunting grace. Shining lights into the dark, unveiling what's unseen. Through the haunting silence, I walk where others dream. Among the ancient woods, where legends come alive, I'll uncover the truth, feel the shadows thrive. Each night a new adventure in the depths of the unknown. With passion in my heart, I'll walk this path alone. But with every discovery, I know I'm not afraid. For in the woods of wonder, true wonders are made. Shining lights into the dark, unveiling what's unseen. Through the haunting silence, I'll walk where others dream. Among the ancient woods, where legends come alive, I'll uncover the truth, feel the shadows thrive. So here's to the night, where the strange comes to be. With boots firmly planted on where I'm meant to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Abnormal Investigations. I hope everybody's doing all right today. It is a beautiful day here in Oklahoma. I've been enjoying the day, enjoying being outside, messing with the chickens. It has been an amazing day today. I hope everybody's had the same kind of day that I've had, or at least the day that you deserve. So, looking forward to going over this investigation with you guys tonight. I think you guys are going to really probably take away some things from this that a lot of you probably have not heard. Um, Lisa, I know, found some things that I'd never heard that's associated with this case, and she'll be sharing that with us tonight. This is one of those, unfortunately, does not have a what we would call a good ending. It is a rather sad story. So, unfortunately, we will have to do the bad ones and the sad ones with the happy ones, and unfortunately, that happens. Um, So a little bit of a roll call tonight. We got Vicky in here tonight. Good to see a Vicky Tim wrestler. We got Michelle McGuire in here. We got Devin in here tonight. T-Bone, good to see you. Looks like I see a lot of familiar faces. We got Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoots in here tonight. Good to see you, Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. Looks like we've got a lot of familiar faces in here tonight. It sounds like it's going to be a really good night. Let me go ahead and bring in my co-host, also me and my heart amiga Lisa. She's going to be joining me tonight on the side over here. How are you, Lisa?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Ah,
Hello, everybody.
great, great, doing great. Sounds like you're having a good time.
Yep, I'm excited.
So, so what did you think about this story, Lisa?
Well, it was
Did
kind
it?
of
Hmm?
interesting, wasn't it? It was, I, I don't know, the claims of a 3-year-old. What do you do with that, right?
Yeah, it was a tough one for me whenever I was reading through it, and you know, these are the hard ones. These are the ones that don't have the happy endings, but doesn't make them less important. These And I don't mean by, not a happy ending by he was, deceased or anything. It's just the traumatization that these, I believe, children go through. I mean, God only knows what they see, right? I mean,
Yes,
it's not like these things just stand out in the woods, and wave at you when you drive by. I don't think they're friendly. And I don't know. I
yeah,
don't know. I can't imagine what would run through a
can't
child's
trust
mind.
them. That's for sure.
Oh, no. Especially a child. Been out in the woods with something like that, and spending, if I remember right, approximately 55 hours or something like that out there.
55 hours he was missing. Right.
That's a long time.
It is,
My chat's trying to
especially
mess
in the
up, so
conditions, the
yeah, we're going
conditions
to
that
talk
were.
about that.
Hmm.
We are going to be talking about that. So, gracias for everybody being here tonight. I think we're going to have a great show. Before we start it, Lisa, is there anything you'd like to say before we jump into this?
I just want to say hi to everybody and hello, TKB. Um, Thanks for joining us and hope you like the story.
And hopefully, my chat starts working right here in a second, too. I don't know what it's doing. Oh,
Mm.
I do have an announcement tonight. A very big announcement. I about forgot. Our moderator, Pam, this is her birthday. She turned 67 today.
Happy
So happy
birthday,
birthday.
Pam.
I think it was Pam. Tim says Michelle. So was it Michelle
Okay,
or Pam?
Michelle. Happy birthday,
Happy
Michelle.
birthday, whoever turned 67 today. I was thinking it was Pam.
That's awesome. Happy
Well,
birthday.
yep, that's definitely a milestone.
for sure.
Let's see here. So tonight, guys, jumping into this investigation. The date of this incident, actually, I mean, it was long ago, but it's really not that long ago, was January 22nd of 2019. The name of the individual involved in this was Casey Hathaway at the age of 3 years old. Um, the location, and I think I'm saying it right, is Ernol, North Carolina. Is that right? Ernol?
Ernal, maybe?
Is that Ernol?
I think so.
Kind of like Colonel Sanders. It's a
Right.
pollo. The victims, we got one. Offenders, we have one bear, is what was described in this. A fatality in this one, we do not have a fatality, thank God. The moon phase on this one was a waning gibbous, showing 98% illumination on the date this happened. Um, just I guess a little insight into the story. In January 2019, a chilling story unfolded in the small community of Ernol, North Carolina. 3-year-old Casey Hathaway vanished while playing with his great grandmother's yard. In his great grandmother's yard. What should have been an ordinary afternoon turned into a harrowing 55-hour search that captured national attention. But it wasn't just a fact that he survived 2 freezing nights in dense, flooded woodland that shocked the world. It was what he had said afterwards. A bear kept me safe. That quote went around the world in the news media in an instant. That simple childlike statement sparked widespread curiosity and controversy. While authorities and family were just thankful he was alive, others were intrigued by his account. Was Casey's survival simply a tale of resilience or luck? Or did something or someone truly protect him while he was alone in the forest for those 2 days? Let me grab my glasses real quick. With that being said, I'll let Lisa kind of recap what I just said. I got to grab my glasses off the table, Lisa. I'll be right back. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I promise. I will go as fast as I can.
Okay. Well, um, yeah, this it's been 7 years since this happened. Um, I did look to try to find any statements from Casey or his parents since this happened, um, but I didn't find anything, which I thought was interesting because it would be nice to know what he thought now, being a 10-year-old, about what he saw and what he experienced and uh, any new information he might remember about his experience. Um, but I didn't find anything, which I thought was disappointing, really. Um, yeah, this little boy really went through it. And according to the sheriff, it was a miracle, giving him only a 20% chance of survival during this time. And I guess it really is a miracle that he survived and wasn't more harmed in the
Yeah.
end.
My allergies kicked up. Sorry. I was sneezing. Now my nose is going to run faster than I can eat it. All right. So, Lisa, whenever you first heard this story, did you have an idea as to what you thought it was going to be? Or was you like, I don't know if that's what this is?
No, I pretty much believe in Bigfoot, which is what I think he was describing. As far as
Right.
Bigfoot um, helping people, yeah, I've heard cases of that,
Mhm.
saving them, in fact. Um, so I do believe his story as far as what he determined was a bear, in a 3-year-old's mind. I think it was most likely a Bigfoot.
Kind of sounds that way, don't it?
It does.
You know, it makes you wonder sometimes why they do good things because, and we're not going to go down this road tonight. I think it'll be a good road to go down eventually. Is, I've been reevaluating some of the beliefs that I had, and some of the beliefs that I had, of course, these creatures, being Nephilim from biblical stance. And I still don't disagree that they would have the Nephilim bloodline in them. I still do believe that they do. But what I do think could possibly be different is the Bible speaks directly about the Nephilim, right? Or however people will say, some people say it different, but I call it Nephilim. The Bible does say that whenever they was asked for forgiveness, they had, Enoch go on their behalf and ask for forgiveness, and they were told that there would be no forgiveness for them or their offspring. But, I always wondered, why would Bigfoot try to help a child if they knew that there was no chance for forgiveness, for salvation, that you were eternally damned? Why would you be nice, right? And I got
But
to
do they know
wondering.
that? I don't know. Maybe they're trying to do.
Yeah, see,
Some of them are trying to do good
right.
deeds. I don't know.
That's what I was wondering. Or do you think this is possible? By definition, and if if you just really go by definition, are they actually Nephilim, or are they, what would be the word, a chimera, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something that was changed. I don't know. I think that's something to look into. It's kind of interesting. I think it would be kind of cool to see kind of how that would fall and what would happen, because maybe they do believe that, hey, there is redemption, right? Maybe they believe, hey, I'm not a full-blood Nephilim, because we know the Nephilim were the giants. So maybe they're just
I think
but
there
then I
might
guess,
be just enough human
I don't
DNA
know.
in them that some of them do try
Right.
to help humans.
I think it would be something to look at. I think it would be fun to kind of experiment with it, and maybe do some research. That'd be a lot of research, huh?
Yeah, a lot. Be interesting.
I mean, you got plenty of time, right? Break out your notebook and your highlighters.
Sure. Sure.
As long as you get plenty of rest at night, that's the main thing. I apologize, guys. My allergies kicked up right before we started. I'm going to blame the cat on this one. So, whenever we talk about the disappearance, okay, I found some kind of interesting things on the disappearance. And I haven't heard anybody else talk about this either. On January 22nd, 2019, Casey was outside playing with his two other children at his great grandmother's rural home. In a matter of minutes, he was gone. The surrounding area wasn't just backyard woods. It was dense, cold, and dangerous terrain, thick with underbrush, wild animals, and flooded areas from recent rains. And what I thought was interesting about this, and I dug and dug and dug to find this because I felt like it was worth the time, is so there were three children playing in the backyard with Casey. Casey being 3, the other 2 being 4 and 5. So Casey was the youngest that was abducted. Another thing that I found pretty interesting about this case is not only was he the youngest. I did check to see if Casey had any mental disabilities. And as far as I could find, he did not have any mental disabilities. And he was also not listed as being on the spectrum. So that was one of the things I was wondering is what made him the, I guess, the victim. Why did it choose to take Casey? And the only thing really, I mean, I guess you could argue between they didn't take the 3 and the 4 year old because of age. And age could have played, I think, a part in this, maybe. But when I really think about it, you know, you're talking about a 3, 4, and 5 year old, and then you talk about the 3 and 4 year old. Does age really ring into why he would be took? And I think those ages are close enough together. There's a possibility that maybe age wasn't what caused it, and maybe this was just a chance of opportunity. And the reason that I say opportunity is because if you read further, the other 2 children actually had went into the grandmother's home and had left Casey out in the yard playing alone. So to me, that would have left him alone and vulnerable. And, you know, as, you know, Missing 411 says, that would also be what we would call the point of separation, right? So what's your thoughts on that, Lisa? Do you think age played, you know, was it something that caused him to go missing, or do you think it was more opportunity?
I think it was more opportunity because I read that when the girls came inside, the great grandmother, didn't notice that he had not come inside as well for about 30 minutes. So
Right.
he was alone out there for at least 30 minutes. So I definitely think it was opportunity.
And I haven't, you know, I was wondering another thing I thought was kind of weird too. And it could have been a day that the weather was on and off. But one of the questions I had was if it was so cold that day, why was the kids and rainy? Why was they even playing outside? And if you also think about this, 30 minutes is a long time to leave a 3 year old unattended. So,
Yes.
what were you doing, Grandma? You know, turn off Jerry Springer.
I think
But, you
that
know,
day, I think that day the temperatures were in the teens. I don't know what time of day they were outside. I'm sure it was, during when the sun was out and it was warm enough for them to be out there, but
ay, ay,
he was in
ay.
a light
That's
jacket,
terrible,
I know, so
right?
certainly wasn't
I hear you.
dressed for days in the cold.
I agree. I, you know, I was strict on my kids whenever, you know, they would be cold out or something. I would always tell them, you know, you're not going to play out in the rain. You know, if it was cold summer, you know, we had fun in the rain in the summer. We played like a bunch of kids, but not when it was
Right.
cold. And even when it snowed, you know,
Hmm.
I would only allow them to stay out for so long at a time. So
Right.
again, I wonder, Grandma, what were you doing? Come on now, Grandma, you can do better. Uh, Grandma's probably in there on the phone with her boyfriend or something because that seems to happen a lot too. You know, when you read a lot of these cases, uh, where the children go missing, and not just cryptid, any case that a child may go missing, most of the time, whenever that happens, it's because the adult was busy with something else and you know not paying attention to the child. Uh, Local law
Hmm.
enforcement, hundreds of volunteers, helicopters, drones, canine units, and U.S. Marines all joined in the effort to find him. The weather quickly worsened. Temperatures dropped to the 20s, and we're talking 20-degree Fahrenheit for all of our Canadian friends and other friends. Rain and wind battered the area. Hopes for a safe recovery dimmed with each passing hour. Now, I know a lot of y'all are going to say, because I've heard a lot of you say, "Oh man, the Marines were there. That must have been, encrypted because the Marines don't know." Actually, not true. I've done some research for you guys, so you all will know in the future if that's true or not. And actually, in missing cases, it is not unusual for the Marines SAR team, search and rescue, to help find civilian children and missing people. So that is not something that's out of the ordinary, and it's not automatically stating that something wild is going on here. That's actually common. The Marines, in fact, use these kind of events as a training opportunity to use their search and rescue teams that they will send in. Now, yeah, we're not going to go into the particulars of that because I know where that's going to go. It'll turn into a whole new show. But yeah, it's totally normal. So I looked this up, Lisa, because I was kind of interested, because we know the child was only 3 years old. He went missing for over 55 hours. So this is from Search and Rescue. It was published in 2025, so it's not that old. In a damp environment at about 20 degrees Fahrenheit or 6.7 degrees Celsius, hypothermia can begin within 30 to 60 minutes for an average adult wearing light or wet clothing. Severe hypothermia may develop in a few hours. Factors that speed the onset: wet clothing, wind chill, low body fat, exhaustion, age. Young children and older adults, you can almost cut these times by 0.5 in half. Mild hypothermia, core temperatures 35 to 32 degrees Celsius or 95 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit within 30 to 90 minutes. Moderate hypothermia can happen within 1 to 3 hours. Severe hypothermia, several hours. And Casey was missing for 55 hours in wet, damp conditions. So it makes you wonder, how did he survive so long in that kind of environment? Just a 3-year-old, lightly dressed, right? Whenever they're talking about, the statistics here are for adults. I think that's pretty amazing. I think it's a blessing that he survived it. It's a miracle, in my opinion, because honestly, the odds were stacked against this little child to even survive it. I mean, the Marines even came out and said that they believed at a point that it went from a rescue to a recovery, right? And those are the words that no parent ever wants to hear: is, we're not going out for a rescue. It's a recovery. Nobody wants to hear that. Any thoughts on that, Lisa? Uh-oh, we lost her. I think that this little boy definitely had some help surviving those conditions. Those conditions I could only imagine. And plus just being terrified as a child too, right? I mean, you're a child, you're stuck out in the woods, and 2 nights, by yourself. That would be scary too. I think that would be really scary. I wouldn't want to have to deal with that. What do you think, Lisa? That the odds were stacked against him, right?
I think definitely was. And I just want to apologize. I keep getting kicked off.
Why do you keep doing that?
Yes, I think I don't. You're kind of breaking up, and so maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not sure, but
Uh-oh.
anyway, um,
Still there?
hear me?
There you are. Yeah, I was just telling him all
I'm
those
here. Can
odds
you
were,
hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. all those odds were based on an adult survival rate too, which is, say you take a child or an elder person and you can cut that in half. So It's nothing short of a miracle that he survived. And could you imagine being a 3-year-old in the woods in those conditions by yourself, right? I think that would
Absolutely.
be terrifying. Um, what Casey said
I think in those
next.
conditions, an adult would have a high chance of hypothermia, let alone a little 3-year-old,
Oh,
by
yes.
themselves. So
And being alone, again, being alone, being a child in the woods alone in the rain, the cold, the storm, that child had to be terrified. I couldn't imagine,
absolutely.
being a kid and just being lost in the woods, right? Uh, for some reason, my chat on StreamYard is not working real well. So, guys, I am doing my best to see your comments. I don't know what's going on tonight. It seems like we've been hit here lately every time we go live. So, one of those deals.
It's hard.
Also,
It's
huh?
hard for me to keep up with what you're saying because you're breaking up. So I'm sorry, and I keep getting kicked off. So
Let me try something. Let me try it. See if this helps anything. Maybe. Let's go off of this. Let me know if this corrects anything. Is it better at this point?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. We're gonna try this and see if that works. Yeah, just being a child lost in the woods alone like that, that would be terrifying. Um, what did Casey say next? Is what everybody was said, because what Casey said really bothered people. He even talked about whenever he was missing how this bear took care of him. I mean, this bear gathered nuts and berries and fed him, he said, from his hand, right? So, in order to do that, you would have to have, in my opinion, and let me know what you think, wouldn't you have to have an opposable thumb to be able to go pick berries?
I would think so. Yes. And bear experts were asked about this case, and they said that there was no known cases of bears nurturing humans,
I'm glad you said
which
that.
is
I
what.
found that too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they said the case probability of that is actually 0%. And I got some
Yes.
information here in a second for y'all. I think you're going to really enjoy on this. Um, so, safe in a hospital and recovering from his ordeal, Casey reportedly told his family something that would ignite widespread speculation. Again, he had stated, "A bear kept me safe." The phrase went crazy with the media. The media spread it everywhere around. But people wondered, could it really have been a bear? Was it really a bear? Because that was hard for people to believe. Um, I think what they tried to say is, they said, one of the excuses I think they tried to use against the child was, they said that the child was lost, and he was just trying to make up an imaginary friend that he believed made him safe, made him feel good, and he wasn't afraid. But I think my thing was, and I don't know, Lisa, if this makes sense to you, and I may be wrong on this. Um, if a child's lost, why would he have picked a bear to take care of him? Because to me, a bear would not be a good imaginary friend. I mean, he would have been scared of a bear. I mean, I would have thought it would have been something else, or maybe it could have been a bear. I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that? I think that's interesting.
I think in his 3-year-old mind, that's the best he could describe what was helping him and keeping him safe. And a bear would be something a 3 year
Right.
old could relate to. They have stuffed animals and things, and um, I think that's the best description he could come up with.
Do you think a child, if he wouldn't have seen something that reminded him of a bear, do you think that would have been the first thing that a child would have made up to say that it was a bear, or do you think it would have been something else, something less big, something less scary, or do you think that maybe he would have said a bear?
Well, again, I think in his 3-year-old mind, that's the best he could describe it.
That's
So
all he had.
I think so.
So a lot of people ask the question: could it have been a real bear? And to address the obvious, could an actual bear have helped him? The bear percentages Lisa had just stated for a bear to help a lost human in the woods is 0%. They said they either would have ignored him,
Hmm.
seen him as a threat, or seen him as prey. So this could have been really, really bad for him, especially if a hungry bear would have came along, right? Uh, North Carolina is home to black bears, and they do roam the region. But experts were quick to dismiss the idea that a real bear was involved in protecting the boy. Black bears are generally shy, solitary, and unpredictable, especially when surprised. While stories of bear human interactions exist, most of the tragedy are at the very least avoidance, and most of the time, if they're cornered, an attack, or a child, most likely, they said, would have been attacked. Black bears do not behave that way. On wildlife biologists said a bear wouldn't gently care for a child. At best, he said, a bear would have just ignored the child. But his opinion was the bear would have saw him as a threat or as prey if it would have saw him out there alone. So I'm thinking, pretty sure it wasn't a bear. I think if it was a bear, Casey would have got 8. I think he would have
I
been
agree.
a
I
statistic.
think
He wouldn't have came home.
Mhm. Right. I think especially a little child. Now, if it was an adult, I can see where, you know, past experience maybe with hunters might cause them to run away. Um, but a little child, I think it's more likely he would be looked at as prey. So,
I think so. And they had a Bigfoot theory, and this is where the story takes a turn into the realm of the mysterious of North Carolina, especially the wooded regions of Craven County. Bigfoot is no stranger to this area that Casey went missing. Cryptozoologists have long pointed to the areas of hotspots for Sasquatch encounters. Lisa, would you like to share some of the information you'd found in this area? Because you kind of found some things that this is kind of a hotspot, right?
it is. Well, first of all, this area is very swampy and woody. Um, there's 2 swamps in Ernle, Beaver Dam and Fisher Swamp, and I found that a lot of the creeks and roads around there have swamp in their names. And from other stories we've done or heard of, I think Bigfoots like to hang out in swamps. But I looked to find if there were any recent um, stories about this area as far as reports of Bigfoot activity or anything cryptid. And the farthest back was in 1875. There were 2 articles in the newspaper, the local newspaper, about 2 separate instances about a month apart, about 4 or 5 weeks apart, I guess, um, of 2 different residents seeing a creature and coming in contact with the creature, which as they described as a Bigfoot. One was a man who said that there'd been an animal he described as 5 feet tall and with a barrel chest that had been lurking on the outskirts of the forest, had been raiding their gardens and their chickens. And he said that this creature tried to abduct 2 of his small children, that the man struck it with something. It released the children and ran away. And then, like I said, about a month later, they ran another article in this newspaper, the New Bern Weekly Journal of Commerce. Same year, 1875, another abduction attempt in the same place, Kitts Swamp. There was a woman and 2 children picking blackberries near their property, and 3 younger males were off in a meadow adjacent to where they were, just kind of watching out for them, and said they saw this creature approaching the woman and 2 children, that it noiselessly climbed a tree nearby to observe them for a few minutes before descending and making its way towards the little boy that was with the woman. The men ended up approaching it, shot it in the lower extremities. The creature screamed an unearthly yell, fell to the ground. Before they could reach him, he limped away. They followed his blood trail for 2 hours, found him in a chaparral thicket, and shot and killed it. They then brought it back to the settlement. It says where hundreds of people from miles around viewed the body before they supposedly skinned it and sent the skin to Baltimore to have it stuffed for exhibition.
I bet they never got that skin back.
I'm sure they didn't. There was another story in 1995 about a hunter who had also seen a Bigfoot type creature when he was out hunting. But 1995 was the latest story I could find from this area that was published. But they've been around there a long time, apparently.
Yeah, and it sounds like they've been interested in children too.
Exactly.
That's pretty interesting too, that they were trying to abduct children. And then all of a sudden,
150 years ago.
Yeah. And, also with one of them being killed by somebody, that could also cause, them to be mad at the humans in that area also, right?
Yes.
But, I mean, you can't blame a human for, protecting your child or your family, because we also know that they seem to be very, very interested in women. The great Scott Carpenter, I don't know how many times he said in his book, he said nobody should hunt them, but especially women should not hunt them. And
he did say that, yes.
I think that if a woman was to really put herself in danger, like if a woman was a true Bigfoot hunter and she really did go off trail and really took boots on the ground seriously and went to a remote area, hiked in by herself, off the trail, in the woods, in the the bushes, the briars, and I'm picking briars out of my knee today from last night. If you really get in there, and the blueberry patches, the blackberry patches, the pecans, the persimmons, in the fall, and all of these natural places to be able to go out and gather food, I don't think a woman has a good chance if they're in a hot area. Maybe not even a hot spot, uh, just by being vulnerable. Because a lot of Bigfoot investigators that do go boots on the ground, one of the things they agree with, and my uncle actually told me this before they ever said it when I was just a kid growing up. He's like, if you want to go to the woods and you want to get scared and you want something to scare you, always take a girl with you. Have as many girls with you as you do men. And we always thought that was kind of crazy. We was like, why would you have as many girls with you as men to have an encounter? But then if you think about it, it almost makes you wonder, are they so interested in the women that they start feeling territorial? Like they want the men away from the women because they want the women for themselves, right?
Yeah, we've heard stories about that before, haven't we?
Yeah, I think that's
Actually, women being attacked.
could be very, very bad. My opinion is, if you're a female and you go fishing and hunting and you're into outdoor activities and you're not getting encounters where you're at, you're probably pretty safe. Because I think the odds are, if you're a woman, you're out at night and you're solo, I think you're going to have one hell of a night, and not the kind you're probably looking for. Um, you're probably going to run into Diablo, is what it's going to feel like. But whenever you get out there, I think that if you're a woman and you're solo and you're not having encounters, I would say there's nothing in the area. But I'm not going to say there would not never be nothing in that area, because you never know when one's going to
Right.
come through, right? But I would say, as far as a hot spot, if you go to a hot spot, then you're not having any kind of like physical attacks or attempted abductions, or at least very close encounters. I would say that you're probably in a safe area. Now, if you go out in the woods and you got stuff walking around you, you're seeing stuff walking around you, you have territorial basic behavior, things been thrown at you and stuff like that, yeah, you're probably not in a good place and you probably want to leave. That's what
I
I would
agree.
that's what I would say. Uh, so a lot of people ask, could a bear have actually been a large humanoid, a large hairy humanoid misidentified by a 3-year-old as something more familiar? Ah, Lisa, see, you know what you're talking about, don't you? Look at you. I do believe there is a good chance it was a Sasquatch. This is a statement that was made. One man made this statement: I believe it was a Sasquatch because the way that it fed, it showed an intelligence higher than that of a bear. It also shows that I believe he also said what I'd said, that it has an opposable thumb, which allowed it to collect fruits and berries and then transport them to the child. Another thing that a bear would not have done, which happened in this case, is a bear does not collect berries and carry the berries with him. The bear would have ate the berries where he would have found them and moved on. They do not carry berries in their paws and eat them as they walk around the woods, looking at the sunset, right? So
Right.
whatever took care of him is displaying characteristics not common to a bear. Now, skeptics, and you're going to have your skeptics, right? So the skeptics come in, and the skeptics start saying, it says the skeptics even started rolling their eyes. Bigfoot, they said, is often described as curious about humans, especially children. But then the skeptics had to throw in there, cryptozoologists are at the bottom of the chain in scientific exploration and are mostly scuffed and laughed at. So even your cryptozoologist, investigators, scientists, and all those, they take a lot of heat. And I think that was proven through what Scott Carpenter, Melba Ketchum, and a lot of those went through whenever they done, the DNA project that we had Scott Carpenter on it. We talked about where we done that series. Even people in high places, good names, expert, they're experts, and they're still attacked and ridiculed even by people in their own genre. So it's hard
That's
for
true.
people to come out and say, hey, I saw a Bigfoot. Because if you come out and say that, I wonder how long you're going to keep your job. Because, Melba's not doing what she used to do anymore because of that, right? Because her attacks were fierce. I mean, they were bad. Uh,
I just
it's
want to
just
throw in that it was said that the searchers reported thinking they had seen a bear while out searching. So if you're
really,
a rescuer and you're out and you don't believe in such things as Bigfoot and you see something dark moving through the trees, or, I don't know what they saw, but they said they thought they saw a bear, which they could have, I guess. Um, I think there's bears in the area, but
right?
that's just something interesting that they mentioned.
Well, one of the expert trackers, he went under attack because of his opinion. He said, and this is what he said at one of their little rallies before they all went out, to go looking for Casey. He said he actually thought it was a Bigfoot at the very beginning. And he was telling them, hey, there's historical events, through and of course unverified of Sasquatch helping out hikers and travelers. Bigfoot
Mm.
is uh, known to move silently through terrain, hide in plain sight, and possess a kind of forest intelligence that allows it to avoid detection. Um, I don't know if a lot of you know, but if you take somebody, for instance, my uncle that was a Navy SEAL, right? He could be out in the woods and you could be talking, and the next thing you know, he's gone. And he's not even in a ghillie suit, right? He's just gone. You're like, where's he at? My uncle Bob could do that. He was in Vietnam. He could do the same thing. And these men, my uncles, very high trained individuals, but still yet we have to take into consideration, even though the amount of training they have and how they're able to disappear like that, the woods is still not their home. These things are adapted to live, survive, and thrive in the woods. So imagine if we can train humans to do that, how well something that lives there could do that. And with the possible intelligence of a Nephilim, a higher being, having a way higher intelligence than what we even think, would be able to hide in the woods. I mean, you can, I'll tell you all an experiment that you all can do. And I think that it would help you all kind of understand a little bit. And any of you all can do this. It has a small patch of woods around your area. Now, make sure that when you do this, you have a friend with you so that you do not get lost and end up getting, looked for on TV because Abnormal told you to go do this. But go out in the woods at night with a friend that knows where you're at. Take a GPS with you if you have to. Just a social experiment. Go out in the woods. Take a light, a bright light. Put the light on what you call your safe place, your camp, right? Your main camp. Call it your main camp. Turn that light on. You walk out where there's no city lights, no landmarks. I'm talking the real woods, no trail markers, the real woods. Walk out there in the middle of the woods. Walk 100 yards where you can see that light through those trees and look at the light. Okay? Have your friend shut that light off. Okay? Shut your eyes, spin around 3 times, and then take a walk out through the woods with the light off. Make circles, look around, whatever. And then without your friend saying a word or turning that light back on, try to walk back to that light. See what happens. Because what you're going to find out is eventually everything's going to start looking the same. And odds are you're going to be walking the wrong way. And how do I know that? I'll tell y'all a funny story. Y'all want to hear a funny story about my old amigo? There was a deputy, Mr. Law Dog. So one time there was a missing car that was down in the woods, and the sheriff's department was trying to locate it to get the VIN number off of it and to check the trunk of the vehicle. So me and my friend, we said, we'll take you down there in the woods and we'll show you where the car's at. Well, he wasn't free to go down there till nighttime. Okay. So we end up going down to the woods. Oh, let me reach this over here in the dark. And we're walking around, and we take him right to the car, right? And we get to the car, and this old car had been stolen, and it was down there. It had been burnt. So what we done is we got the VIN number off the vehicle, and then we popped the trunk on it to make sure, there wasn't a stiff one in there, right? So when we did that, there was nothing in there. We verified the vehicle was stolen. It had been burnt out in the middle of the woods, and we started walking. And when we started walking, I thought he was investigating. I wasn't going to get in his way or say anything. He just took off walking, and we're walking, and we're walking, and we're walking. Next thing I know, we start going over creeks, and the ground beneath our feet starting to get wet, and we're like getting into the swamp. And I'm like, what is he doing? So I was like, I'm not going to say his name because he did pass away, and I hate that, but he did pass away. And we asked him, we said, where are you going? What are you doing? And remember, this is a deputy. They do search and rescue all the time, right? He's like, well, I'm taking us back to the patrol car. Was like, not this way, Yart. And he's like, what do you mean? We're like, dude, you just took us a long ways from where we was at. He was so lost that he was moving way back into the swamps of the lake. And this is a pretty cool night on a fall night, right? And we're like, yeah, we're not going the right way. And he's like, oh, God, don't tell me there's water moccasins in here. We're like, yeah, there's water moccasins in here. So what we end up doing is he's like, you guys are going to have to get me out of here. So we took him straight to the road. The patrol car, I think, was probably maybe 100 yards down the road from us. We could see it when we shined the lights on it from the reflectors on the patrol car. And he said, how in the hell did you all know how to get out of there? He said, man, I was starting to panic. Everything looked the same. I was lost, right? And we had walked directly from his patrol car, took him directly to that car, and he had got disoriented that fast. Now, one of the things that I do, and you can do it in the woods also, it does not always work because the moon does move, or it may not even be up. But if you go into the woods, remember where the moon's at when you go in. Is it high in front of you over your right shoulder? Is it behind you over your right shoulder? Now, you can use that method until the moon reaches pretty much high noon for the moon. And then you're going to have to readjust your surroundings. You're going to have to go from low right over your shoulder to forward right over your shoulder, and know that reverse of that is going to take you back to where you was at. You can also use the constellations. And if you're in an area where you're able to find an object that you know where it's at, it could be via a tower or lights off of a town, or if you don't even want to take the chance of really being out in the real woods and being afraid where the real creatures are at and all that, you could just go and look for a trail marker. I don't recommend going into the woods unaware of what you're doing, because you will become lost, and search and rescue have to go rescue people like that every day. But I think for an experiment, I think that would help a lot of you all out. Go out in the dark and just a little patch of woods and just watch how easy it is to get disoriented. Lisa, would you like to add anything to that, ma'am?
Well, just that I probably won't be taking you up on that challenge because I'd be lost for sure.
Well, when you come down and do some boots on the ground with me, we're going to do that social experiment for everybody. We're going to stick you in the middle of the woods.
Okay.
And we're going to see if you can make it back.
Oh,
Yeah. Would
no
that be fun?
lights. That's
No lights.
that's
No,
that sounds like a riot. Yeah.
no. And if you get lost, you can do some wood knocks, and I'll try to find you by the wood knocks.
Or something else will find me.
Especially if you're out there in the dark doing wood knocks.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyways, after he had said there was historical accounts of Sasquatch helping travelers and people, Bigfoot is, known to hide and everything. Some theorists suggest that benevolent Bigfoot may have encountered Casey. Now, this is what I think is very interesting, okay? A special response team for the United States military, search and rescue response team, right? This is what they said. And I think this is pretty important that it's coming from, our military, which is the best in the world. And we just celebrated our heroes yesterday. And thank you all for your service and for allowing us the freedoms that we have today. God bless you and your families for the sacrifices. They stated that it could have been a benevolent Sasquatch recognized the vulnerability and offered warmth or shelter during the cold nights. The boy was unable to articulate what he saw and might have described his rescuer in a way that this young mind could only comprehend as a bear. The military actually said that. Now, that puts a whole different aspect on it.
This wasn't that long ago.
Right, and what has the military saw in the woods to make them say that they believe that could have happened?
Well, it's just amazing that they would admit something like that, Hmm.
It makes you wonder if they give us hints every now and then. Like they know more than what they're telling us, right?
I think they definitely do.
Right. Vicki, I
Have to pay
appreciate
attention.
that. So glad you're here with us. We really appreciate that, Vicki. The guardian spirit theory. There's a folklore that some of the Native Americans were also talking about also. Thank you, Tina. Another explanation that is a possible explanation, and I want your opinion on this. And if I'm passing anything, Lisa, that you need to get out, let me know if I get too far down the road. I know you've done a lot of work on this, and I don't want it to be in vain. So just holler at me. Holla at me. So in many Native American traditions, the forest is not just a place. It's alive with spirits. The forest is where spirits live. And the most important spirit of the woods is the guardians of the land, depicted as animal-like or nature-bound beings. The one thing most Native Americans all agree on, no matter the name, the Sasquatch is said to be the most dominant being of the woods. Now, Cherokee lore also speaks about the little people. And could Casey have been shielded by one of these forest guardians? Is the question that the Native Americans had asked. Me personally, I believe that it's possible, and a Bigfoot I know is called a guardian of the forest in the Native stories. So do I believe that it's possible that this happened? I think that we have to, I think no matter what you believe, Lisa, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think no matter what you believe, I think we all have to at least agree that something intervened that caused him to be able to survive. This 3-year-old did not survive 55 hours in these conditions, in that environment, without outside help. I think that's
definitely
pretty set in stone. Those who support this theory, they point to reoccurring patterns and folklores across indigenous tribes, right? So whenever you think about this, ladies and gentlemen, you have to think about you have indigenous tribes all across the world. Some of these tribes don't even know that other tribes exist, right? They don't know about each other. But whenever you go through history and you look at these indigenous tribes, they have all got similar stories of the Sasquatch. And it's not like they were picking up the phone, calling each other, saying, "Hey, man, you just see Bigfoot run by there?" They didn't even know each other. So for all of these different tribes, different groups of people, and we're talking around the world, right? For even the first people, right? There has to be something there. I mean, plain logic tells you people all around the world don't see the same thing that's not communicating, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, how could they? You
I
know?
mean, it just to me is so, I don't know, it just, you don't have that happen just because people are making up things. You don't have people, it's like you have this huge corroboration, right?
It gives validity to it, you know?
Yeah, that big word right there. Hear that, guys? Right, that's why she's here. That's why I got her right there. Yeah, that's. I'm telling you right now, Mama Sita got it. She knows what she's doing. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Those who support this theory tell the story of a. Oh, she's going to kill me. Spirits or beings tied to the wilderness often appear in times of crisis. So the Native Americans say that in times of crisis, these beings appear. They tell the story. Now, listen, I thought this was pretty interesting. So, whenever people are in trouble, Native Americans even say in these times that these creatures appear, like to protect people, these protecting spirits. Now, I have a story to tell y'all. Lisa, I'm full of wind tonight. I am full of it, right?
Go for it.
All right. So, Hoblaw Miguel is going to speak. I'm going to speak about this, right? Ready?
Ready.
Okay. So, a long time ago, whenever I was younger, me and a friend had done what we wasn't supposed to do. We'd left the house and went down the road, and it was getting to be kind of dark. In the area that I live in, especially then, is known for satanic worshipers. And it was close to Halloween at that time. And we snuck down the road. We wasn't doing anything bad. We snuck down the road and we was sitting on like a corrals, where you would corral cows. We were setting up on the gate of that, just off of the roadway, on like a little road where the cowboys would go in to feed the cows, right? We were just sitting there visiting, just talking. All of a sudden, this van pulls up in front of us, and there's people in the van. They open the sliding door and they tell us to get in. We was raised, from kids like everybody else. You don't take candy from a stranger, and you don't get in vans with, strangers. So we were like 13, 14. We was like, no, we're not getting in. They started getting really like demanding. Not like you need to get in. It was get in the van. And when you have an adult talking to you like that, even as a child, and you're raised to respect your adults, a part of you wants to get in just because you have an adult telling you to do it. Does that make sense?
I
Maybe.
can see that, but how scary.
We were terrified. And this is going to run into where they talk about spirits showing up in bad times. Whenever that happened, behind us, where we had been sitting, nobody had been there. The gate had not been unlocked. It had a chain and a lock on it. This big ass cowboy, and I'm not talking a little guy. I'm talking this big, burly cowboy with the shirt unbuttoned down, the hairy chest. He looked like a woodsman cowboy, right? He steps out behind us, and he's got the deepest, strongest voice you ever, and he tells them, get down the road and leave these boys alone. And he points at them. He does this. Well, they get in the van and they drive off. We went straight home. But you know what the weird thing was? When we turned around, there wasn't a car there. There wasn't a cowboy there. He was nowhere to be found. We always said that was our guardian angel, that he had saved us that
Wow.
day. Yep. If you would have saw the look in their faces, they were scared to death. I really believe that that was an angel that day, because those people, I think they would have took us, and I think they would have probably sacrificed us, because they were doing a lot of that back then. And thank God
Wow.
that man, whoever he was there, because that probably would have turned out bad.
Sounds like it.
But also, a lot of
It's
people also say, what, children are spiritually sensitive. Do you believe that? They're more open to seeing, experiencing things that adults can't?
I think definitely they're
You
more
think that
innocent,
you think that accounts
more
for
open.
more of them being taken?
Hmm. I think it goes back to the innocence because they're less likely to be afraid of whatever's trying to take them, like Casey described what helped him as a bear. Um, yeah, I think them being younger could have something to do with it, maybe.
And they're just more open and trusting too. I mean, if a child's
Right?
outside playing, I've wondered this sometimes. And here's another question, Lisa, if you don't mind, I'll borrow a little bit of your mind.
Sure.
So if a child is growing up, right, and you probably grew up the same way, I think. Um, we all had cartoons we watched, right? Did you watch cartoons, right?
Sure. Hmm.
So when we grew up, some of my favorite cartoons were He-Man, the Pink Panther, Charlie Brown. But then also you look at some of them cartoons that we watched, like Thundercats, and all those. They had animals in them, but they were the good guys, right? They were part animal, part human. Uh, you had Yogi Bear, right? So you had Bugs Bunny. You know, you had all these characters that we got up Saturday morning and we watched and we laughed and we thought they were safe, right? And
Right.
if we went to the woods as a child back then, even the movies, Wizard of Oz, right? She had, you know, characters with her that we know, is not supposed to exist. So if we were outside playing, and this is just a question for everybody, would that desensitize children to mythological looking creatures, that if they saw one out there, they would think, oh, Yogi Bear, I see that on TV. Oh my God, this is so cool. I want to see him. Instead of having that fear factor?
Oh, I think that could have a lot to do with it, right? Because they watch the cartoons and they're cute little characters and they
Right,
make you laugh, right? So I think they could be desensitized to the you know the danger because they don't know any better.
right. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we can bring Pam on sometime if they had TVs back then, and she could tell us what she used to watch. I'm just joking, Pam. I had to. But
Don't be
I
mean to
don't know.
Pam.
It's her birthday. Maybe she can come on and do a birthday dance for us. We can all say it's your birthday. But I don't know. Um, I think sometimes our government uses subliminal messages to desensitize us or prepare us for psyops. Would you think so? Maybe
I do believe that.
it's just something that I've
Yes, I do.
wondered when I read some of that. It kind of made me wonder that. Uh, but also, Native Americans said something I thought was pretty scary. And I think this is something we should all remember when the woods also. They said that guardian spirits may take the forms that are both familiar and otherworldly. In this context, Native American folklore believe that what could have took him could have been a shapeshifter. a skinwalker, a skeely. For those of you that don't know, skeely is Sakini, actually. Also, is I think the proper name in Cherokee, the Sakini. It's a witch, and I think if y'all watch Dee's Dark Adventures, I think that she's trying to put out messages also that witches are still around, and witches are in everyday life. And I thought it was pretty interesting some of the context that she said. When she spoke about the witch on her video she done, how evil they are, and there's a lot of things out there. I think we truly don't know what they are, right? And why they do what they do. Am I passing anything that you need to say yet? I don't want to get
No.
past you. Um, so if you go, and if Sunshine's in here, she's probably going to enjoy this. So I went into the trauma, imagination, and survival mechanism of the psychological effect of children in high stress situations. So, of course, there are grounded psychological explanations as well. Trauma, it can distort perception, especially in children, in times of extreme stress. The brain may invent comforting memories or interpret experiences in ways that shield the mind from fear or pain. Also, if a child is left in the presence of anyone that has sole and complete control over them, with others that share the same expressed desires or ideas, that child can be made to believe lies and also can get the children into manipulation. Was Casey hallucinating due to hypothermia? Was the bear a product of an overactive imagination trying to make sense of 2 terrifying days alone in the wild? That's the question that I had. Did he hallucinate? I think, in my opinion, let me back up a little bit. I do believe in the psychological idea that children will make a pretend friend, right? An imaginary friend in times of need and stress and stuff like that. I believe that also develops into them having an attachment, oppression, and all that. But in this case, I don't believe that he was hallucinating, because we have the fact that he survived 55 hours in a climate and a condition that he should have never survived in.
That is a
I
good point, though.
What's
I
up?
think that's one of the signs of hypothermia, isn't it? Is you hallucinate.
Yeah, hallucination is a big. I mean, yeah, a lot of people, whenever they go into hypothermia, they will hallucinate and remove their clothes. That's one of the things that they know that people do whenever they reach that stage. And a lot of hunters, that are found that have died from hypothermia, they would have had removed clothing that would have potentially saved their life.
Right.
But I think when you look at this case, you could argue that he did hallucinate, but then I think that what we have trouble is, even though I think if he would have reached the state of hallucination to the point of his hypothermia that he was seeing and believing this, I don't believe he would have survived it, because at that point you are so close to death. I mean, you are right there. You're knocking on the door. And
Right. And then when they did find him, he had some scratches and bruises, but he was
right,
otherwise pretty much okay, other than cold.
right.
They did not say that he was hypothermic. And I think he spent 2 days in the hospital and went home. So, hmm, I don't know.
I think the
I think something.
improbability of him surviving it are almost zero without outside interference or help. I think that's what brings the mystery to this. It's not.
Well,
I don't
yeah.
think they could dismiss it because he survived it. Does that make sense?
The the sheriff did say that he thought that Casey had only had about a 20% chance of survival, And he called it a miracle himself that he survived, because apparently the weather was such that, you know, even an adult would not have survived. So
I believe that.
I think,
Uh,
I think he had help.
yeah, I mean,
I
I
mean,
have to
maybe
think.
it was his guardian angel, like what helped you,
I agree with you, Mejor.
and it took the form of something familiar, and so he wouldn't be afraid. I don't know.
Right. I agree. Um, other unexplained survival stories, right? Casey's story is not the only case where young children have survived the wilderness under seemingly impossible conditions and claimed unusual assistance. In 1955, 2-year-old Keith Parkins vanished in the Oregon wilderness. He was found miles away the next day without shoes, having survived freezing temperatures. He later stated that he saw a man who helped him. In 2014, a Utah woman and her young child crashed in a remote area. The child was found alive after 14 hours in the freezing cold. Rescuers reported hearing a disembodied female's voice calling for help before discovering the baby. Now, I want to let y'all in on this story just a little bit. The lady in this unfortunate accident, she perished. The child was to a point of hypothermia that he was actively dying. He wasn't talking. He was laying there in his last moments, right? They would have never have found him, except for not one, but all of the search and rescue people heard a disembodied female voice hollering for help from where the child was at, which led them to discovering the child. After the child was found, 3 of the rescuers reported seeing a very hairy man with his shirt off walking through the woods down below extremely fast with a long gait. That opens a lot of questions. Not only was that a Bigfoot helping this kid, but if it was a Bigfoot, he was able to mimic the voice of a female to get their attention. Or even if it was a female Bigfoot, it was still able to speak and sound like a human woman. That gives me chills. Because if you're out in the woods and you hear somebody, it may not be somebody. These cases
Yes,
often
we've heard
include,
them
huh?
mimic on your. We've heard them mimic
Right.
voices on your lives before.
T-Bone. T-Bone said
So,
grandma was watching Abnormal Investigations when he went missing. uh, so, these cases often include reports of odd sounds, mysterious figures, or impossible survivals, leading some to suggest that the unknown forces might occasionally intervene. I believe in miracles. I believe that, my Lord Jesus Christ, he still does miracles every day. But, the lingering mystery. And officially, Casey Hathaway's case is closed. He was found, he was safe, he grew up, and his life went on. The authorities chalked it to the Bear comment to a confusion of childish fantasy. Of course they did. I mean, I'm not surprised about that. But for many, the story is far from over. Paranormal investigators, cryptid researchers, and folklorists still reference his case as one of the most bizarre and compelling survival accounts of the decade. Because here's the thing, nothing about Casey's survival made sense. He wasn't dressed for the weather. He didn't have food or water. He avoided wild animals, exposure, and drowning. He was found in an area already searched. And somehow, when they pulled him from the thorns, he wasn't terrified and he wasn't hysterical. He was actually calm. Now, the case study on it For all of y'all that are into case study, a 3-year-old boy went missing for nearly 3 days in the woods of North Carolina in 2019. And he was found safe, claiming that a bear had kept him warm and company during his ordeal. His survival was considered miraculous, and the community rallied together for the search. Now, I have a timeline of the search. I actually pulled up their timeline. You got January 22nd. Casey was playing in his grandmother's backyard. January 22nd, he went missing after not returning inside with 2 other children. January 24th, after 45-minute search by the family, 911 was called. January 24th, search teams began combing the area, covering up to 1,000 acres. January 25th, Casey was found alive in the woods approximately 40 to 50 yards from the road by a lady that had heard a child and called rescues to come and check it out. Agencies involved, the research included the FBI, NCIS, local law enforcement, and emergency management team, along with the Marine Search and Rescue. Community support, and this is there's variable numbers, but they're saying nearly 600 volunteers participated in the search, having harsh weather conditions. The key discovery, a trip from a woman walking her dog led rescuers to Casey, who was found calling for his mother. Casey's condition was remarkable for survival. Health status, Casey was found cold but responsive and was taken to the Carolina East Medical Center for evaluation. The survival claim. He later told authorities that he had spent time with the bear, which he claimed kept him warm during his ordeal and fed him berries and nuts. The family reunion, Casey was reunited with his family, and his mother reported he was in good spirits, even asking to watch Netflix shortly after being found. Doesn't sound very traumatized. And
No.
I have a theory, and we're going to do a show over this, and I'm just going to throw this out there to y'all in chat. Do we get the same children back that go missing? Think about that. Beyond the story, there wasn't a whole lot to look at beyond the story. The story was pretty open. But beyond the story, what I found, local authorities conducted medical exams and forensic psychological interviews. Search teams, including canines, FBI, and Marines, they scored in the area. Investigators checked for criminal activity and looked for physical evidence, and officials said Casey showed signs of prolonged exposure, low core temperature, frostbite, consistent with being in the woods. News coverage notes that forensic evidence was found to confirm a bear or criminal involvement. There was none. And authorities said the child's statement about a bear is unverifiable. Of course they would. So, do we get the same children back? I want to ask that again, because we're going to do a show. I think we're going to do a Patreon on that one, because there's no way that they'll probably let us do that one, but we're going to do that. And what do you think, Lisa? I'm at the end. I mean, I've got my final thought, but I think my final thought's going to pretty much wrap up what I think.
Okay, well, I can give my final thoughts if you'd like.
Senorita, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I believe what Casey encountered was a Bigfoot based on the evidence that we found, and I don't know why he helped him, but I'm glad he did. I'm glad that he was rescued and found alive, and because we hear about these stories all the time. And hopefully in the future we'll hear from him. I would be interested in if his story changed or if he remembered anything else. But he's probably about 10 years old now, so maybe a few more years. And we might look into this again and see if he's made any statements.
That would be a good update show, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Is that pretty much your final thought?
That is.
Well, my final thought is, given the core facts, child survived With hypothermia, investigators reported no evidence of bear or human aggression, and the child described as being sheltered by an unfamiliar presence. The Bigfoot hypothesis is a coherent explanatory framework that fits those observations without contradiction. It accounts for the lack of typical animal forensic markers and for the child's subjective experience. However, it remains an extraordinary claim because it shows us an undocumented large primate species interacting benignly with a human child. The absence of definitive physical evidence means the hypothesis of provisional. For a believer, the incident is strong circumstantial support for the possibility that such creatures exist is occasionally interactions with humans in the woods. But it falls short of the empirical proof required to convert reasonable belief into scientific acceptance. In short, I believe a Bigfoot took care of him, and I don't believe there's any other explanation for his survival in the climate, environment, and the longevity of the hours that he went missing. I just don't think it can be explained away without outside experience, help.
And I agree.
You agree?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only part that gets me is if he wouldn't have survived it, I would have said hypothermia all day long. But the fact that he survived those conditions and then wanted to watch Netflix when they picked him up, it's like he was never alone, right? He was with something that he trusted, something that took care of him. And
yeah, he didn't seem scared.
Right.
Do
you think it took him to where that lady was walking her dog for her to find him? Do you think it did that?
Say again?
The lady that heard him yelling for help. Do you think the Bigfoot took him there and set him in those briars so that that lady would find him?
I'd like to think so.
Because I've wondered sometimes if he sets him in the briars, that would kind of keep him from moving, and it would keep the child stationary too, right? Because rabbits do that.
He was kind of stuck in there.
Right.
They had to pull him out of them.
And if something wanted him to be found and for him not to run away, and this something wanted to be out of the area when people showed up, it would have secured him there and made sure help was coming, and then it would have vacated the area, right?
I think it was probably long gone.
Right.
When he realized there was a lady there.
I think so.
And then the rescuers came.
That's what I think.
He was long gone.
I'm glad he survived. That's the main thing, God bless him that he survived and that his family was able to reunite with him. And he's back home. That's the main thing.
Right.
I can only imagine what they went through with their child being gone and told that it was a recovery effort. That would be very, very hard to deal with. Yeah. That's pretty much all I've got for y'all tonight. Tomorrow, don't run off, guys. Tomorrow, I am doing, if it's not raining, we're going to do, I had trouble doing this on there, so we're going to hopefully get it to work tomorrow. I don't know. But tomorrow, we're going to try to do a Rumble live. Now, I had trouble setting that up for some reason. I couldn't get it to do it, Lisa, so I don't know what's going on with that. I want to look into it. But tomorrow, I want to do a Rumble at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. I will try to maybe get a thumbnail out if I can't. Maybe go over to our Rumble account, make sure you're following so you can watch us tomorrow. Just look for us around 7 o'clock Central Standard Time to go live. And we're going to go back to that where I went last night and look at that mound. A lot of y'all wanted to see that mound in the daylight. So I will take you all back down there and we will take a look in the area in the daylight and check it out so y'all can kind of see that mound, what I was talking about, if I can even find it again in the woods. But we're going to look. If I cannot get Rumble to work, which I'm hoping it does, I'm going to work really hard on that. we will go live on Abnormal Investigations, because if we're going to be there, we might as well do some filming. With that being said, it'll be 7 o'clock p.m., so just look for us then. Lisa, you have anything you'd like to say before we hop out of this one?
I just want to thank everyone for watching and liking the video. Don't forget to hype, comment once the video posts. If you're watching replay, same. I'd like to see your comments. Join Wide Open Adventures Oklahoma if you haven't, and Patreon, and of course Rumble, so you can watch the boots on the ground tomorrow.
I couldn't have said it better. I don't know how you remember all that. I have trouble remembering all that. So I'm just going to leave it short, and I'm just going to say, guys, thank you for being here. God bless you. Thank you for your support. Don't forget to hit the like button. That like button means so much. And we'll see you tomorrow night at around 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. And as always, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. And I think we're out of here. Good night. And God bless, and bao con Dios.
Good night, guys. God bless.